This is Defenders TV Podcast, episode 120, about The Defenders, Season 1, Episode 8, The Defenders.
You think I'm holding back?
Welcome back, fellow Defenders, to this final episode of the first season of The Defenders, also entitled The Defenders. Would an episode by any other name smell as cool as this episode? I am one of your hosts, John.
I'm one of the hosts, Derek.
And rounding out the group, I'm Chris.
Yes, welcome back, everyone. This is the finale of the first season of The Defenders, and we are on episode 120. If you are just joining us, you have 120 episodes to go back and enjoy, and you can find those at defenderstvpodcast.com/iTunes for those of you who enjoy a good old Apple podcast, or you can go onto any other good or evil podcast catcher and search Defenders TV Podcast. We also have our prize draw at the end of this episode. So thank you to everyone in advance for all your feedback, comments, and discussion. I must say I have enjoyed all the comments, loads of them, this season of The Defenders.
They've been really good at not spoiling us as well, at keeping to our spoiler post idea.
Yes.
Really well. If you want to join us over in our Facebook group, just go to facebook.com/groups/Defenders TV Podcast. While we won't be podcasting for a little while after The Defenders, we're always posting over there as well. So come over and join the discussion.
Yes, absolutely. I think, though, with this, we must crack on in to the episode. Derek, what are the details of this episode?
Well, the series finishes out the way most of the series has gone, being written by Lawrence Smith-Hisrich and Marco Ramirez, who are the writers for many of the episodes throughout this season.
Are we sure it wasn't J.R.R. Tolkien, by any chance? With so many multiple endings at the end of this episode, I did think The Return of the King.
They may have taken a little bit of inspiration from J.R.R. Tolkien and George R.R. Martin, which we'll probably get into during the episode. But this episode was directed by Farron Blackburn, who's been on board for some of the Defenders shows before. He was on Iron Fist, felling true at Roots, and did 2 episodes of Daredevil, Nelson v. Murdoch, and World on Fire. An excellent British director. We've talked to him quite a bit over on Twitter, actually. He's a lovely guy. Just got picked up for a full series written by himself over on Netflix, an untitled supernatural show. Looking forward to seeing what he does over on his own, but it might take him out of doing future Defenders episodes, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think Felling Tree with Roots was a great episode of Iron Fist. If I remember rightly, it was quite bloody, quite violent, that one. I do like my blood.
That's why you love Game of Thrones as well, isn't it?
Absolutely. And Hannibal. And horror in general, even though it scares me half to death.
Just wait till you see it.
Of course, this is a spoiler-filled episode, and anyone who is just joining us, this is spoiler-filled for the finale, so please go back and listen to our previous 7 episodes and join us there and on to the finale. Yes.
Well, John, do you want to tell us what they gave us with your synopsis for the episode?
Sure. Drastic times call for drastic measures, and after much soul-searching and persuasion, even Luke Cage, along with the other Defenders, agree to blow up the Midland Circle building to defeat the Hand. Beneath them, in the darkness under Midland Circle and the vast skeleton of Shao Lao the Undying, Gao explains to Danny Rand that the dragon bones are the source of the substance used by the Hand for resurrection. As above, so below, destruction is sure to ensue. As Colleen and Claire Temple place the explosives to destroy the building, so the harvest of the dragon bones by the Hand will cause widespread destruction of New York City. In the skyscraper, Colleen and Claire are confronted by Bakuto, who cuts off Misty Knight's arm as she arrives to help. But as Colleen kills Bakuto, his headless body falls and sets off the timer for the explosives. Further down in the belly of the beast, Jessica Jones, Matt Murdock, and Luke Cage arrive to rescue Danny Rand from Elektra and the Hand. In the heat of battle, Matt's senses detect the timer ticking down, and he gets the others to leave as he remains to plead with Elektra to shun her darkness and recognize the good within her. As the timer ticks down, Matt and Elektra are together as the building implodes around them. as well as Gao and Murakami, who failed to escape the cavern. In the aftermath of the incident at Midland Circle, the loss of Matt is felt throughout the remaining defenders, but most keenly with Karen and Foggy, as Danny, Luke and Jessica begin to move on with their lives, protecting the city of New York. A battered Matt Murdock slowly awakes in a convent as a call rings out for Sister Maggie.
That was a shocking ending to the episode. And then a really shocking after ending to the episode. Great synopsis, John.
Thanks, yeah. I just left out most of the Return of the King sort of multiple endings, basically.
I am sure we will cover them in our top 5.
I'm sure we will. So then, on to point 1. Claire Temple does bring the team together. Chris, you go to top of the class, gold star, smiley face, Order of Merit, Order of the Garter, you name it.
Order of the Phoenix from Harry Potter.
Order of the Phoenix. Congratulations, you're the winner
Thank you very much.
Competition.
I get to pass go when I do not collect $200. So yes, Claire brings the team together. This is something I've been postulating for 5 seasons now.
Yeah.
And I'm glad they actually went there. I have to be honest. She has been the heart, if you will, almost. She is the soul behind. She's the connecting thread behind all of them.
Yeah.
And
yes, she is the heart bypass of the defenders.
She is the pacemaker of the group, if you will. She keeps the heart ticking. I didn't think they were going to do it. I thought they were relegating Claire to a supporting character, which, yes, she is. She is a supporting character in each one of these. But because of who she is and the fact that she has relationships with each of these characters, each of the members of the Defenders, it didn't seem right that they were going to relegate her to the point of a Patsy Walker, who had a small piece in the season, but not instrumental.
Right.
And Claire Temple had to be instrumental. She is the night nurse for this universe. She is the Linda Carter of this universe. Linda Carter was the original night nurse in the comics. Excuse me, I literally went there. Obviously, everyone knows who I'm going to talk about. I obviously mean Wonder Woman. No, I do not. Yes, anyway. I'm glad they did this. I really did. They went... She individually convinces them that they have to do this. But more importantly, she managed to calm her lover. It's probably the wrong way of saying this. She agrees with Luke, right? And then does the massive but.
Yeah.
And that's what, triggers the sweet sister. This is not Luke going, this is not how I do things. I don't blow things up. I protect. I may be unbreakable, but I do not do this type of thing.
He was ready to walk. He was ready to walk without Claire encouraging him and explaining to him why this is the best situation. He probably would have walked. And Jessica kind of rolls in behind her and explains a little bit more why she's going to do it, which is just so she can get on with the rest of her life.
Yeah, I think she's feeling quite sweaty in her sort of 3-day, 4-day, 5-day-old pair of socks and clothes and all that kind of stuff. Yeah,
I'm glad they have cemented Claire Temple as a foundation in this team.
Yeah. Like even Colleen says to her later on, she says, "You've saved just as many people. You just don't get in the papers about it."
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. That was really cool. I think, as you said, Chris, like for her to get that moment and to bring them together is like really cool. And I think, Colleen gets her moment as well here, which I thought was really, strong. And I loved how the two of them played off one another. I have to say, Claire, I absolutely loved her tiptoeing around whilst Colleen was laying the charges and fighting Bakuto and the henchmen coming in. I absolutely loved that she was tiptoeing around with like a massive spanner in her hand, taking on, Colleen's got a katana, Claire Temple has got a spanner to fight off the evil hordes of ninjas from the hand,
Absolutely.
I do. I think we need to treat that scene in particular separately because I have a whole host of comments on that.
Oh, good.
Oh, very good.
Wait.
But what I did want to say is I giggled. No, wait. I don't know how to probably I harumphed. If harumphed is a word. Basically, as soon as Jessica did say, "This is grand, we'll all sleep easier once this is done, and we can all get back on with our lives, everything is going to be great," I'm like, really? You had to say it? Really? Because now that you said it, it's not going to happen. Something terrible is going to happen.
Of course.
Guys, you've given her some great lines. Why did you have to give her that one?
But that is a Jessica thing to do, definitely. And does kind of bring us on to the next point, which is the Mission Impossible. The rest of the episode really is taken up. It really screws with a top 5 point system that we have had for our 119 episodes so far, when 45 minutes of the episode is really just one big fight. But we're going to try and break it into our 5 points. The next point is the mission. What's happening with the defenders themselves. We will talk about Colleen separately in a second. But the majority of the episode is taken over to this fight. It's some really interesting reveals within this as they go down into the heart of where the Hand are standing around, taking apart Xiao Lao, the dragon. So we learn that that's what they've been looking for. It's the bones of the dragon Xiao Lao. That is the substance that they've been looking for.
So, we were right.
Yes.
But actually, that's not... I took that wasn't Xiao Lao.
So
Xiao Lao is still in Kunlun. Doesn't Gao say that there was a host of them roaming the world?
She does, and you're right. There is a bit of confusion in that. I watched it a couple of times actually this episode. She says it's the last known deposit of these creatures. So there was many of them roaming around on the earth when she was younger. This is the last known deposit, and Danny calls her out on it and says, "You're disrespecting the memory of Xiao Lao," to which she says, "Well, you punched him in the heart." Which is a great
Which is
comment.
a fair point.
Yeah, exactly.
But yes, she's desecrating the memory of Xiao Lao by cutting these bones apart, because it's the last known deposit of these.
Yeah, I mean, it may be Xiao Lao, it may not be, but it's a gateway to presumably somewhere on the same plane as Kunlun. So, I mean, it's probably Xiao Lao.
So I'm going to completely go against the two of you on this. And I'm not trying to be argumentative.
So who is it
just
then?
because it's our final.
Who is it,
So,
Chris? Which dragon?
I think it's... So, it's Xiao Lao's brother. So I took this as being that because it was sealed by an Iron Fist, it can't, I didn't take it as a portal. I took it as a place underneath, on Earth, on that realm, where there was one of the last deposits of a dragon. Like, that this was one of the last known areas. It was sealed by the Iron Fist previously, because and it could only be opened by the Iron Fist.
That entrance, yeah.
Yes, that entrance. So I didn't take it that they were being magically transported, because they were at the entrance, but there was not, they didn't close the entrance, they just buried it. So I'm like, I didn't get the sense that they kind of went from the earthly plane to the heavenly plane as they stepped through that entrance.
No, they didn't. I think it's the exit on the other side. Possibly is out the other side where Kunlun might be. This is the entrance to it from New York. There is in fact a moment where Gao says, "When we remove the bones of Xiao Lao, that's what's going to destabilize New York." So the size of that dragon being underneath the city of New York, when they take out the bones, that's going to destabilize the city. It's effectively what they're saying. That's how they're going to destroy the city of New York. So it's a bit confusing, definitely, that conversation that they have.
Definitely.
I agree with all of you, really, on that. It's definitely confusing. I think the only thing is the conversation between Danny and Gao, where he says, "You're desecrating the memory of Xiao Lao by doing this." So I don't know whether that's because that is an ancestor of Xiao Lao, that's
a version of Xiao Lao? A previous Xiao Lao?
Perhaps, yeah, perhaps.
I took it as being potentially another version, or basically a Xiao Lao's brother, his sister.
Like Xiao Lao's kind
one of his child.
Yeah, like Xiao Lao is reborn, so it's Xiao Lao, 75.2 or something like that. Ginger Dragon or something in Android speak.
Let's all agree to say they don't have enough in this episode for us to confirm either way. But we know it's a dragon. We know that Danny's really appalled by what they're doing now that he's found out what they're doing.
Yeah, which, to be honest, Gao saying he punched him in the heart, as you said, fantastic. I really like that. I do like Gao even more now.
Absolutely.
I do like the fact that we kind of were guessing that the substance was something like this. We thought it was chi, and then we kind of went back and forth on chi, dragon, not dragon. So I say we take a 0.5. We half a point for this.
I agree.
I'm happy enough.
Because again, yeah, Gao does say we're looking for the essence of what gives you your chi, and that's why we're taking the bones. So yeah, I give us a 0.5, even a 0.75 on that one.
And presumably that is why Xiaolao the Undying can resurrect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, it was good, and I think, look, it slightly puts to bed some of the Xiaolao Kunlun elements of this story, which I'm kind of happy. They did tie it. They tied the substance with the hand and etc.
Yeah. They
tied that in a neat bow. A confusing bow to some, but almost it wrapped the story, if you will.
Yeah.
So I'm happy about that. I have to say I loved Matt, Jessica, and Luke. Like, you just, as they walked towards down this corridor, I was like, oh, and then you just see Matt kind of running his fingers along. I was like, what's he oh, and then the ripping of the Luke Cage ripping doors open is always great.
Yeah, that was
Absolutely.
cool. That was very cool, because it looked like proper metal that he was ripping. Like Coulter. Like, it looked really good. How they did that.
Absolutely. And quickly, congratulations to Luke Cage that won a Stunt Award this weekend, in a Stunt Emmy for the series of Luke Cage. So he's obviously learned something from the series Luke Cage, doing some cool stunts here as well.
Yeah, that's excellent. Yeah.
No, I missed that. I saw that you just posted this as prior to recording, which was fantastic. I have to say I love the Super Friends comment. It's like, I was so glad that... I'm paraphrasing of what Matt says, but it's along the lines of, I'm so glad that you guys are here with me. Mm-hmm. And then Luke turns around and says, I'm not going to hug you. I was like, even though I had seen it in the trailer, and it was that Super Friends comment, I was like, yeah, I'm very happy with that. It still got the resounding kind of belly laugh.
Absolutely. And the one that got it for me is Jessica going, are you guys ready? And both Matt and Luke responding with no. And she goes, yeah, that sounds about right. So they aren't the Avengers. They aren't standing in the middle of the street having a camera circle them round and round and round as they jump up for this challenge. They're not too excited about going to their possible deaths, which the Avengers don't seem to worry about too much. I like that. I like that there's this big difference between them and the other Marvel hero team.
They built this world in more reality, if you will. So this is our street level heroes, and I think that's what they've been pitching for 5 seasons, coming up to this. But even the Avengers moment, the pinnacle of the Defenders, it even still felt more grounded in reality. It felt realistic. It felt like this could be... Okay, yes, there's a bulletproof guy and a girl who can carry a lift, and a guy who runs around who's blind, and a guy with a glowing face. I get that. Dragon. And a big dragon. I get that. And undead niches. Okay, I'm slowly... I'm losing my point here, but you understand. It the essence of the writing, the essence of the cinematography, the directing, the producing of this whole series. While I've commented and criticized some of the things, I still have to admit, leading up to this climactic battle of what it is, this was my culmination of coming up to the Avengers scene in the original Avengers Assemble, where they're standing and the camera's panning around them. That was what we got. As the guys got to the bottom,
yes,
we got that. The 4 of them there, the 4 of them were fighting off an unholy number of ninjas and masters of the ninja arts, because I don't want to call some of them, like, some of them were using guns, but potentially they were ninja guns, I don't know. But that was the moment we got. All that was missing was I expected a cinematic panning of the 4 of them when they kind of were back to back. We got an upside down one to a degree. And it was like, it wasn't the same as the Joss Whedon cut, where you can see that the music blaring and that what it was. But we got that. They got down, and all because Jessica was the bait.
I know. That's such a great moment. Love that scene as Jessica is standing in the lift with Luke and Matt. And Luke says, I've come up with a plan, but you're not going to like it. And damn right she doesn't. She plays it just about pitches it right. But effectively she's just trying to keep everybody talking while the other two come in and kick a bit of ass. And then she gets in to kick a good bit of ass too. She does a good job here, actually. I think I complained a little bit early on in the season in the Midland Circle fight that Jessica wasn't given much to do. In this fight, she gets a good bit. She gets to take out Elektra, which is quite cool.
Yeah, no, she did a good old toss of the caber there.
Yeah.
For Elektra. Like this, the fight down there was really, really cool. Again, it's like they interspersed it with Colleen and Bakuto going at it with their katanas. And I thought that was really, really nice. I mean, you know, you had Luke Cage going all like proper like Hulk on them. Like there's that one moment where he just takes a guy and runs with him and crashes him to the floor.
Oh yeah.
You've got Matt doing his acrobatics off the side of the cave walls. He just used the side of the cave to just like knock it into the ninjas. Luke Cage goes all bulletproof, and you have that great scene where he covers Jessica to protect her from the bullets. So to speak, and like she says, remember this, just like old times, you know. Really nice little moment there.
Yeah.
One thing I did notice, Elektra does like to stay out of the action until right at the end. I mean, that moment where Iron Fist gets his fist on as he's facing off against Gao, which was another moment that I just thought was really cool, where she drops her cane, and like we've seen her do a force push kind of thing previously, and out comes the fist and completely neutralizes it, chucking everyone off. You know, Elektra was there at the time, and then just kind of goes into the shadows in a nice way that Gao does at the end. I thought she was escaping. I thought she was going out the lift at that point. There's a really nice moment where she just backs away and her face disappears into the darkness. Absolutely. And I thought she was effectively, because she's a bit of an astute old lady, that she was heading on up the lift or something and getting out of there because she'd realised it was like over. I thought the Iron Fist was really good here. I really thought that Finn Jones played it really well. And the great thing is that he had his dragon tattoo on his chest was open and on show as well.
Yeah, that really reminded me of, there was a comic book run where Iron Fist kind of no longer has the kind of what we would consider the typical Iron Fist kind of outfit, but instead kind of puts on almost like a kind of hoodie. It wasn't even a hoodie, it was a green and yellow tracksuit then, but zip was down, and that's what this kind of reminded me of. The zip was down, he's in a deep V. You wear that out, it is a deep V. I get it, you don't want to do up your top button, but honey, we're seeing way too much. Like, you expect you're going to get like a nipple slip, and it's like, well, that's an R-rated thing now, because we've got a man's nipple.
Well, that's it. He's got the Marvel nipples on show. You know, Steve Rogers has got the abs, Iron Fist has got the Marvel nipples.
Yes, there we go.
And the tattoos.
Derek, what did you think?
What I've loved in here is that we see Jessica Jones also has a special move as well. She picks people up and drops them to the ground in a proper WWF move. Like, I'm talking WWF from the 80s here. I'm not getting it wrong. I'm talking
hold on.
Proper
the Worldwide
slam.
Federation for Animals?
I'm talking a Stone Cold Steve Austin, like, pile driver to the floor. It's a great move that she's got. I love that she has that. I absolutely love that Luke goes into beast mode when Murakami keeps hitting him with a sword, as we saw in a previous episode with Elektra hitting him with a sword. It doesn't do any damage to him. It just sparks off him effectively. So he just gets annoyed at Murakami and just keeps beating him until he gets rid of him effectively, until they have their later showdown. I love this scene. I could talk about every moment of it. I've seen it a number of times now, and I love this scene. I think it's brilliant.
Yeah, if only Jessica Jones had done a Ric Flair woo at the end of it, that would have been even cooler.
Yeah, there is so much in this fight. There's so much going on. You could talk about it all day. But they do effectively, all they're down there to do is get Danny out of there and take him away. Daredevil's the one that hears the ticker of the clock ticking down for the explosion of the building, and they do make it out of it. They get into the lift and they start to head off. But I like that half of the hand are following them. In fact, all the hand are following them. I believe that's left, other than Elektra, right? So all that's left at the bottom is just Matt and Elektra.
Yes.
Really, because Matt has let everybody else go, imparts a little bit of wisdom into the ear of Danny, which we kind of possibly hear some of later on. But he's there to try and convince Elektra to leave, trying to convince her that he loves her and that she's good and that she should leave with him and not go down this path.
So I was really shocked by this. I know now, saying that, it was like, of course they were going to do this. He's going to try and save the love of his life.
Mm-hmm.
I was more expecting 4 of them run at her, knock her out, and it would be carrying Elektra over the shoulder up in the elevator.
Right.
And it would be some battle outside in front of the cops, and you would see the hand fighting the vigilantes and the vigilantes winning, and I thought that would wrap it up. So when he stayed down there, I was like, okay, they're going to go down this route. I thought it was going to be some huge emotional talk.
Right.
I was not expecting a battle.
Jerry Springer.
Yeah, a Jerry Springer battle emotion, like hug each other, kiss each other, kick each other, punch each other. They go at it. They beat the shit out of each other. And even though I wasn't expecting it, I thought they did the right thing, because even though he is trying to convince her of this, like, that she is still in there, she is venomously, like, going, I am who I am now. And she's trying to argue the opposite.
Yeah, but she's definitely arguing it.
Yes.
I feel that she's just enjoying it. She does say it to Matt a little bit later in the conversation that she does it for the fun, really, because we've seen her be very powerful and very strong. Matt's not superpowered. We're not excessively superpowered anyway. And he's having an all-out battle and is still standing at the end of it. And she's the one that's tired. He's tiring her out and she's tiring him out during this fight. It doesn't seem like she's going full force at him, is it? Or is it just that damn good?
I really enjoyed this as well. I felt that having that moment between the two of them was definitely necessary, because in a sense they hadn't had that opportunity previously to any great extent. Mm-hmm. I like that it was over fighting. Is what they used to do together in season 2. I mean, for me, I think one of the most important parts of that was where he was talking about, the good is in you still. I know it's there. Why am I still alive?
Yeah. And
I really liked her response. I mean, I think Elodie Yung has been absolutely fantastic as Elektra. I really liked that she says, it's not about being good or evil. I feel whole. It's a really good way of putting across that, Matt's dichotomy of good and evil. And I think, the fact that he is fighting as the devil of Hell's Kitchen underground, and his Catholicism, like there's a motif there, or he's fighting the actual devil in Elektra with this substance coursing through her veins and who has been resurrected. Mm-hmm. I think is really symbolic, really interesting.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that they had the fight as well. In the end, I suppose they get covered in love dust from the implosion, really. And we know from the ending but obviously we'll get to that later, will she escape this implosion? As well, Murakami, who looks pretty much out of it with a bit of steel rod through his chest.
Well, wasn't he in like a blink and you miss it moment he gets thrown from the lift by Luke Cage?
Yeah, exactly.
Where it's like you could hardly tell it's him. He's fighting alongside 2 or 3 members of the Hand. Luke picks him up and just throws him out of the lift, and he falls 30 or so stories onto this steel spike. That was pretty shocking as well.
Yeah, but he's there with Gao, which was surprising. I thought she had kind of left, and I thought like the whole reason why Murakami was fighting with Luke and Danny and Jessica in the lift was because he had either gotten on top of it or was climbing up the elevator shaft to get out as well. He had realized that it was done. So, Gao and Murakami are still there. Will they survive? I mean, they're surrounded still by the bones.
Maybe.
Would the bones still hold up everything if they got within the carcass of the dead dragon?
Yeah,
so
maybe.
I thought that was a really cool sequence from when the defenders came down in the elevator and the battle and the fight, through to the Iron Fist and to Elektra and Matt. It'd be really interesting if they explain or maybe show in flashback in one of the future series exactly what Matt Murdock has whispered to Danny Rand as well. I think that would be quite cool.
Definitely. And one final superhero moment for Jessica Jones in this sequence, as she holds up the falling lift. And we've talked about it a bunch of times during this season about the level of her powers and how strong she actually is. I think she's answering us here. She holds up a lift carrying two pretty heavy guys inside it. And as they're climbing up, she just kind of looks at them and goes, what? As in, you don't know how powerful I am. I've never shown you how powerful I am, and I never will again. This is me saving you, and just get out, basically. It's a nice little moment for Jessica.
It really is. That was for me the icing on the cake, and I know we've discussed, and I'm not going to retread or rehash old kind of conversations. I don't think she knew how powerful she was, and because the look on her face at one point, I was like, does she? But okay, but then you get the very classic Jessica moment of kind of going, "Are you just gonna stand there and look all day?" It was
that was cool.
It was really, really good. So, guys, look, we can't talk enough about this kind of the largest scene we have of this. Our defenders battling their way through.
Mm-hmm.
That's not all our defenders. We still had 3 other defenders having their own battle on
Absolutely.
the other. And I suppose that leads us on to point 3. Derek, take it away.
Well, it's all fun and games until Misty loses an arm and Bakuto loses his head. We finally get the moment. I've heard many, many times that the poor actress who plays Misty Knight gets plagued by this because she's very active on Twitter. She gets plagued with the question of, when are you losing the arm? When are you losing the arm? From the moment she was cast on the show. So putting any emotion into this moment where she loses her arm must have been reasonably difficult for her because she was kind of going, oh, the fanboys get what they want, finally. But she does a great job. It's a great moment. It's Bakuto has separated himself from the other members of the Hand, searching around the building, finds Colleen and Claire setting the charges. Firstly, I like the fact that it's Colleen versus Bakuto again. I think if he was to come back alive, there's only one person that is able to take him out, right? It has to be Colleen. She has the biggest history with him. There's nobody else that should be allowed to take him out.
Definitely, this is her moment for sure. In the same way that Claire got hers in the foyer, convincing everyone to blow up the building. This is great to see Colleen tackle and fight Bakuto. And I have to say, come on, like, that decapitation was absolutely awesome. Watching it again just before we started, where she seems to run his neck along her katana, sort of kick him away, and then just does a nice clean chop and off with his head.
It's fabulous.
Really,
Such a
really
well-shot
cool. It was so good. I loved these scenes with Colleen and Claire. I loved Claire with her big spanner or wrench that she had, fighting with the ninjas and the minions that came in. I think, like, you hear kind of a clatter of metal against one another. She's like having a sword fight with a big wrench. I really liked that. Her phone going off as well. She was creeping around. And I mean, to have Misty come in, that moment where you've got the 3 ladies lined up, Misty with the gun, Colleen, who I think has just been sliced along her back by Bakuto, sort of coming back, and Claire there with her wrench. I really, really enjoyed seeing that. To me, it almost felt a bit like in episode 4, where you have the 4 defenders facing off against Elektra in the Royal Dragon, and here you have the Daughters of the Dragon along with the Night Nurse teaming up to protect each other and to help the defenders by putting down the explosives and dispatching Bakuto. Like, absolutely awesome for me.
Yeah. And if this is any indication, I really want to see Edward of the Dragon show. I want to see these three characters working together on a full show. Definitely.
I'm in agreement with both of you. Like, although I will say one thing, I thought they were going to kill Claire here.
Oh yeah,
I
know.
that heading part. I was like, oh god, he's going to kill Claire. Mm-hmm. That's going to obviously free up Luke for Jessica later on. But more importantly, that's what will drive Colleen and Misty to go crazy and like kill his ass. Because she was a bit back and forth. Like, she wasn't amazingly beating him at one point. So I was like, okay, then the rage takes over her. So I was like, oh, they actually could kill Claire here. And this actually cements the defenders together. The death of their connecting force. That flashed through my head for like, oh, but yeah, okay, obviously not. It was literally a flash, and now I've thought more about it. But I did think that that's where they were going to go.
Yeah, I think we kind of commented on that a few times during our coverage of the other shows. We kept going, please don't kill Claire, because that's a stupid way to bring these characters together. We don't want to see her character go just to bring them together, is what we kept saying to ourselves. But in this moment, as Bakuto has her head in between Colleen's and his swords, I absolutely thought we were going to see the beheading of the Night Nurse.
Yeah, but let's call it now. Daughters of the Dragon, late 2018, early 2019.
Okay, I'm up for covering it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd love to see it,
yep.
Definitely. But yes, we do get that moment with Misty losing an arm from the sword of Bakuto. And it's not intended, is it? It's effectively because he's knocked off balance from killing Claire. That's why he takes the arm.
Misty saves Claire from having her head chopped off, basically. Yeah. And in that instance, she gets her arm swiped.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we all knew it was going to happen.
Oh, yeah.
But I thought it was another fake out, like they did in Luke Cage, where she gets shot in the arm. We all thought she was going to lose the arm.
Uh-huh.
I thought she was going to get a really bad cut, and there was going to be some joke, something like, oh my god, that's nearly the exact same place I got shot. I was expecting that, but I got ruined by social media.
Yeah, I mean, basically, we knew it was going to happen.
Yeah, we all knew it was going to happen. It was put out 2 weeks after the show aired that she has got her arm. But we'll talk about that a little bit later on, because that's part of the endings. One other point for this, it's a very small point, but I think it's important to call out, because the surrounding members of kind of the Defenders family have been in the precinct for a couple of episodes. We kind of bemoaned the fact that we didn't get much with them in the precinct. So we get a moment with Trish and Karen discussing the hand and the hand quashing the radio story that Trish had earlier on in the season. It's good to see those two characters working together. I'd love to see them together in a future series. I'd love to see Trish crossing over to the Punisher possibly, because that's the next time we're going to see Karen. Because they're both two forms of media, and they both have a lot of interest in these cases. They both cover them in their own different ways. So kind of interesting to have Trish and Karen working together. But unfortunately, Karen, because her friend and the reason she's there is Matt, she doesn't get to kind of share her experience of being around a superhero. It's only Trish that gets to share her experience of being around Jessica, and that Jessica is the fire that she's around. Everything burns when Jessica's around, and Trish is there to pick up the pieces, but also that Jessica's been there for her entire life as well, taking care of her. Which I think is a lovely sentiment.
I thought this was nice. Yes, we said we hadn't got enough of these characters. I prefer Patsy to Karen. I don't know where they're going with the character of Karen.
Oh, big time.
Even in this scene, she's still trying to... She points to one of the photos where it's probably Daredevil Season 2.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Like, I kind of assumed it was, but I just didn't see which photo she pointed to.
It was the warehouse where she was kidnapped and held captive by the Hand at the end of Season 2, yeah.
Yeah, but I was expecting the Eureka moment where this cements her to understand where he was coming from and why he was doing this. But they didn't give her that, because if they hadn't given her that moment, right, that leads perfectly over to the Frank Castle Punisher, where she becomes the Matt Murdock to the Punisher from the last season. She's the one telling him, you can't kill, you can't constantly destroy everything. You need to be a force for good versus the vengeance of evil. That's where I thought they were going to go, but they didn't give her that crystallization. So, unless the tragic post-battle scene is that Eureka moment, then I'm a bit... Unless they have to explain it in The Punisher.
I think it might be.
I think in the precinct, I think the big thing for me was after the battle, where you get Karen and Foggy effectively waiting for Matt to come through the door. We've seen Jessica back with Malcolm and Trish. Luke is there with Misty and Claire, and Danny and Colleen walk back through the door. And it's just waiting, and I think Farron Blackburn does a really good job here of just holding that shot on the door and panning towards it, and then back on Karen and Foggy, then back to the door. And to me, that is one of the most poignant scenes of this entire series.
Yeah.
Really powerful stuff, really emotional. I think that was really good for Foggy and Karen. I did like Trish and Karen's moment to discuss, the hand and so on, but part of me, I think overall, looking at the whole precinct stuff, I'm not entirely sure I'm bought into that in terms of how it could have been done maybe over a 10 episode series. But I thought that little moment with Foggy and Karen was absolutely excellent. It's interesting as well, I think, Chris, what you said, like on Facebook, there's a little discussion there about Karen, and that actually they need to start driving Karen's character forward as Karen.
Yes.
That she needs to have some more backstory, more development, whether it's that she does her crash and burn thing, like we were saying from season 1 or 2, waiting for the whole drug addiction side of Karen, because at the moment she just seems to be this foil for Matt Murdock. And now that she's obviously involved with the Punisher series, it'll be interesting to see how she's written for the Punisher series. But, she's against Matt Murdock putting on the Daredevil suit because he's going out to protect New York City and not being violent about it, or using, minimal violence, not killing. Yet she's kind of bought in to an extent of the Punisher being uber violent to get his justice, or she's at least sort of allowing him to do that without really challenging him. And it'll be interesting to see what's her take on him effectively spraying a hell of a lot of bullets around New York and killing a hell of a lot of people, which is what I'm expecting in the first series of The Punisher. Yeah. And how she confronts him about that or deals with that, because I think the problem for Karen's character at the moment is her logic as a character is getting a little bit screwy, because she's against one person protecting New York City, but is kind of backing and getting invested in another person protecting the city, but through much more violent means. And it'll be interesting to see. I really hope that they actually just develop Karen as Karen. And I think John Tara Higley said that on the Facebook group, and it's something that I think I would agree with, to be honest.
Absolutely. I think the real need for this character of Karen is that she has her own life. There has to be something going on for her as a person. She's certainly not just waiting around for Matt. She's been working away from him now for 6 months. So she's had her own life in the newspaper. She's had her own storylines going on. So this wasn't the season for it. Obviously, it's only an 8 episode series. We'll hopefully see more development of her in Punisher.
Oh, definitely. I think, going off on a tangent there, really, but it was just something that I know for the spoiler post on Facebook, there had been a few sort of comments on, and it was an interesting little discussion, actually. I think as well, it doesn't take away from Karen and Foggy here in this moment in the police precinct.
Absolutely.
Having a really powerful moment. And actually, it's more their relationship with Matt and what they've been doing through season 1 and season 2, I felt does pay off in full, and even were there in Matt's church at the end as well. You kind of get a continuation of that. So that was really good. But I think, Chris, you got any thoughts?
Yeah, and I think that for me summed up why for 8 episodes we've had the supporting characters there. Why Jessica was there with Malcolm and Trish. Why Luke had Misty and Claire. Why Danny had his Colleen. Why Foggy and Karen. Because we got that emotional scene at the end where you see Jessica come in and go up to Malcolm and Trish. You get Luke stumbling in with Misty and Claire. You get Danny come in with Colleen and just both of them looking exhausted, and then you get that emo. Like, if I was Kevin Smith, I know Kevin Smith, like, he would have cried at the scene. He's cried at the Flash. I know, like, that scene for me was, like, just beautiful.
It was perfect. Yeah.
It was what I wanted, why they were there. For all our discussions on Karen, and there's many. It's mostly me, kind of, but there's a lot of... We've had back and forth discussions, which both on air and off air. The scene with Deborah Ann Wall, Foggy Nelson, Eldon Hansen. So for just having those two characters there who we've seen grow, attached, and battle... be the supporting characters. I don't like saying secondary characters, but like to be some of the other main characters in the Daredevil universe, the 2 seasons we've got, having that poignant moment where their worst fears are realised. And the acting by the 2 actors were amazing. I have to admit, this for me was like, yeah, you've done it. You've managed to put a pin on a 2-season mini thread where their greatest worry is now come true.
Yeah, it's fascinating and it's really, really well put together. I love the scene, and it's only a small point, but I think it was important to have it as a discussion point for the episode because it is really important for those 2 characters, particularly because of where they're going to go. We'll cover a bit more of it in our final point.
Yes, absolutely. The endings. The Return of the Devil by J.R. Tolkien.
There's a lot going on in here.
Yeah.
But first up, really, we kind of have to mention this. This is the conversation we'd had last week about Luke and Jessica now being in some serious trouble. And they made the comment that, Misty made the comment that something very, very big would have to happen to get them off. Well, we find out what happens. It's the implosion of Midland Circle, which kind of covered everything up. By having this implosion, it stopped the earthquakes in the city, so that kind of takes care of that. And then the NYPD, meaning Misty Knight, didn't file a report, so no charges will be filed by the city, effectively. This is all taken care of by Hogarth, Benowitz, and Chow. So they've sorted it all out. That's why there's going to be no effect on anybody after this act has happened.
It is what it is, I suppose. In terms of the cover-up, it was pure, utter trope writing to get everyone out of a tricky situation. Like, there's nothing else that they could have done. I mean, we do talk of it being so realistic and so on, and absolutely to agree with that in terms of how it's done from a superhero comic kind of slant. And so in that sense, a massive cover-up is fine. But I mean, there's still 2 dead bodies, like Swan Day and Stick, where they were actively looking at them. So, yeah, it's great to have lawyers like that, I would say.
I agree with John.
Mm-hmm.
Look, there was no other way they could do this without starting season 2 of Luke Cage and Jessica Jones, season 2, in jail.
Yeah, absolutely.
Completely agree with you, Chris. You think of the power of Luke Cage as a series, and then the shock of him actually being the one to go to prison. Like, that was excellent.
It was.
And shocking at the same time. Here, I think because it's the Defenders, because it's the big climax and everything, then that can't possibly happen. And I suppose they've got Matt, who's may or may not be at this moment dead. Wouldn't that have been an interesting ending where he is actually going to prison again, and maybe even Jessica?
Yeah, I don't think I could have taken Luke going to prison for the 3rd time in the series.
No, I'm not saying you should have done. I'm not saying or something.
I do agree with you though. The way it's tied up with Trish on the radio just announcing this to the city. But I love that she even has a joke about it herself, where she effectively says, well, that's what I'm being told. Isn't it great to live in New York? At least the rent are cheap, which they're not, which is the joke, you know. Your thoughts next, as usual with Trish Walker. But I kind of like the kind of throwaway line about it. Mike Coulter famously called this show the summer blockbuster version of The Defenders. If you want something to just pass the time and enjoy over the summer, this is the show for you. He definitely didn't say that about Luke Cage. He thought of Luke Cage as a challenging, realistic show set in Harlem. I think he's kind of on board with this idea. This is how you wrap up the show, and that means it's a summer blockbuster. It has to end on a high note, on a happy note. So that's the way they've done it.
So I think the way they could have done this was with some form of, but we're going to have a committee is being formed to look into you guys. Almost like the Sokovia Accords. Basically, a version of the Sokovia Accords being put down into, which is already there, but like a committee is being formed on the basis of Sokovia Accords into finding these vigilantes and making sure that you guys do not get away. You got away with it once. You're never going to get away with it again.
We've recorded so many hours of podcasts about the Defenders and talked so much about the Defenders that I can't remember whether we mentioned this, because I know it was one of my points in about episode 2, that these guys should all be in prison the minute they're found out as being superpowered individuals who aren't registered under the Sokovia Accords. They should be in prison.
Yes.
Because that's the purpose of the Sokovia Accords. They are just ignored for this season. So you couldn't bring them in really at the end of all of this. That should have happened in the precinct the minute they found out they were superpowered and didn't want to register. Unless it's time before, but I don't think it is.
Nothing that's happened in Civil War, time-wise, has been mentioned up to this point. So I still potentially think that this is all set prior to Civil War.
But there's no real way to tell.
Exactly. But I think it's a nice way. That's a nice bow that you could put on it.
If they want to bring it back, they have the opportunity to, I suppose. Let's go on to Misty, where she ends up, because I think that's kind of a nice little moment. I think it's heartbreaking, really, as Colleen comes to visit her in hospital. She says this is Danny's hospital.
And it's a state-of-the-art kind of place where she's going to get a robotic arm.
That, definitely. So we know for the comic books that Misty Knight gets it from Iron Man, and this time she's going to get it from Iron Fist. Is going to be giving her the...
Or Ironclad, as we shall now call him. Thank you, Jessica. This was nice little scene. I think having Colleen there, I think the two of these, I'm really wanting to see them come together as Daughters of the Dragon, as I've mentioned many times before. But I think just Misty's demeanour here, like, she seems down and out. She's, has she not filed a report because she can't, because she's lost a hand, or because she's been fired, because to be honest, her last interaction with her superior was, that's if you're still working by the time. So, has she had disciplinary action while she's been at hospital? And will she remain in the force? She kind of very, very much in a resigned kind of way says, it's the job, with almost like a little sarcastic laugh to Colleen, when Colleen is really saying, sorry, it's my fault. And she's like, of course it's not. It's part of the job. I really like that. There's kind of there's a cynicism there, I think, behind Misty. And I really like that in the character. So this was a nice little wrap-up scene for these two, I thought. And I think as well, same for Luke and Jessica. It had to be in a bar, and there had to also be mention of coffee. And I thought the kind of little look that Luke Cage had was fantastic. Where Luke Cage is kind of really getting caught out by Jessica here. I presume Jessica knows about Claire, so there's kind of a bit of a wry look from Luke here as to whether there will be some coffee in the future between the two. But again, it's a nice little touch. It kind of just briefly harks back to the inside the cavern beneath Midland Circle, where he's on top of her. No iron grinder this time for the abs, sadly. Maybe a drill or something like that, I don't know. But really good.
Yeah, I just like that little moment as he walks into the bar and says to Jessica, "What are you on, Jessica?" And she goes, "My fourth." I just like a little quippy moment from
absolutely.
Jessica. But Jessica goes back to her office. She's back to where she was at the end of season 1 of Jessica Jones, as the window has now been replaced in the office and the bullet holes are being covered up by Malcolm. So,
Oh yeah, we get the Alias Investigations door back.
yes, we do. Yes, we do. We'll never find out why it was broken from the end of season 1 to now. And I just don't know if it was actually smashed at the end of season 1. I thought it was repaired right at the end of the episode, but I can't remember. But we're back anyway, ready to go for season 2. And Malcolm's coming in useful, which is good.
Definitely. And we get to see Danny on the rooftop of Hell's Kitchen as well in his proto costume. This for me was fantastic. Actually, to begin with, when he's silhouetted against sort of the evening sunset, I was convinced it was Daredevil.
Absolutely.
I really did. And I think this is where potentially we might get the Ed Brubaker run, where Danny Rand does, for a very brief period, take on the mantle of Daredevil, puts on the costume in order to protect Matt's secret identity when he's in prison, to show that Matt isn't actually Daredevil and he's been wrongly imprisoned. So you never know, we may get this or an element or a little flavour of this Brubaker run for a very brief period of time within Daredevil season 3, maybe for an episode or so. But I thought this was really cool, and then you just see his fist light up. And he's looking a bit more costumey. He's kind of got his proto costume, the tracksuit type costume that Chris mentioned earlier as well. And this is all coming from a little whisper that occurred as Matt was telling the other guys to leave whilst he remained with Elektra, and he pulls Danny to one side, and Danny, in this multiple endings of this episode, indicates that he said to protect my city. Yeah. And I'm just wondering, was there a little bit more that he whispered to Danny other than just that? But I mean, that was awesome. I really have absolutely enjoyed Finn Jones as Danny Rand in The Defenders. I think the character has been captured an awful lot better. I know there's been a few niggles for myself, but I think on the whole, I think Danny has been captured really much better in this Defenders series, and I just loved him on the rooftop there with his new proto suit or costume.
Definitely, yeah, that was really cool, and I'm convinced there was more to that message from Danny. There was enough there to say, go to my office, it's in the box, I have a spare suit in there. All you have to do is learn how to use my billy clubs, and then you can take on the role as Daredevil to protect my city. And then Danny just choose to protect my city. He definitely had enough time to say that. I'm hoping to see Danny as Daredevil in a future episode of Daredevil season 3.
Yeah.
I think they will. I think not only is that run fantastic, even though the little bit of that Iron Fist is in that Daredevil run is quite small, we still do get to see Danny Rand as Daredevil, which was great.
Yeah.
I think you guys are right. There was definitely more than protect my city in that closing moment. Otherwise, he spoke really slowly, which just doesn't seem like he would do that in a tense moment.
Or otherwise he would have just shouted it out to Jessica, Luke and Danny. Because all three of them can protect the city, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I like this ending. I love that proto suit. Yes, that's what I was trying to discuss earlier. That tracksuit like, where it's down, the deep V zipper is down. And I thought that was great. The coffee moment for Luke and Jessica, like, for me, that screams, I'm hoping something has happened with his relationship with Claire.
So horrible.
For me, these two are always together. Like, this is the MJ Spider-Man.
Don't put that baggage on them.
I know, but it's. I didn't grow up on Alias. I actually came into Alias quite late. Some of my first interactions with these two characters was the Avengers run post Civil War or post. It was post Civil War, where they're the Avengers, the new Avengers. I think that was the run. Excuse me. And they were together as that, and then later had their kid, and they were the tight knit family. For me, that was brilliant. Like, that's how I kind of got very tied to these characters. So,
right.
I know they may not Like, this is fine. There may be that will they, won't they, until Luke Cage season 5 and Jessica Jones season 5. That's fine. I will do that little girly squeal the moment we get them back together. It's going to be interesting.
But hey, you never know. There's nice little moments there. Again, love the moment between Claire and Luke and Foggy in the room as Foggy's kind of finishing off that discussion. Love that Luke comforts him and then Claire takes him aside and says, "Don't worry, everything you did for Matt, there's nothing more you could have done. If you were there, you would have known there was no talking him down. He loved the city and the people in it more than he loved himself. There's absolutely nothing you could do, Foggy." And Foggy takes it going, "I can't help but blame myself. I always will." So that is the essential Foggy. It's the essential Claire. It's why I've loved her since the first time we saw her. She's the right person in those types of situations to deal with people going through tough times. It does help Foggy because it does give him the ability to go and comfort Karen in the church. But yeah, this is definitely going to have an impact on both of those characters. Even if Matt does come back and sync back up with Foggy and Karen, which he probably will in season 3, they're going to have a lot of problems going through these moments of thinking that they've lost Matt. And it's a kind of a good way to end for those characters.
I have to agree. Like, I thought this was poignant. It was the perfect way to end with this. Although it leads up to perfectly why potentially Iron Fist will take on some form of the Mantle or Man in Black or the Devil of Hell's Kitchen, because they mention that both Matt and the Devil of Hell's Kitchen were both missing on the same day. So having that like literally stated, it kind of leads to, okay, so now we know we will get that. But doing it in the church where we know Matt has, I was expecting Father Latham to come across and have some very small cameo, kind of, again, just kind of go and talk to them. But we didn't get that, which is fine. We'll probably get that later on. But we did get the most important scene of this whole episode, or the end of all the endings. We got the most important scene, which was Matt.
Absolutely.
I'm so happy.
But we were spoiled.
So we really were spoiled with this ending that we got. It was fantastic. We got Matt there in what we assume is some form of nunnery, and we get a Sister Maggie being called for, which is none other. Now, it's been called out in our group in some of the comments. It's like, this is the Frank Miller Born Again run, or some variation form of it. This is beautiful. Every fan of Daredevil's, probably top 5. This is his run, so it's really going to be interesting. Guys, what did you think?
Yeah, and it's thanks to John Tara Hickley for pointing out that it was the Frank Miller run where we see Matt in the bed direct from that comic run. So, that got my memory sparking again. Thanks for that, because, yeah, absolutely. I was kind of there going, this scene seems very familiar. Definitely. And then it was like, yeah, of course, that was what it was from. Love this, and hopefully we get Mummy Maggie coming in. Yes, that was me who probably spoiled it in the Facebook group as well. But this was a nice little homage to the comics. We certainly knew that Matt probably was going to survive, given season 3 having been announced. For me, it's brilliant, and also a nice little bit of intrigue, because you're going, well, hopefully then Elektra survives as well. And whilst I think Murakami probably bought it at the bottom of that lift, I really hope to see Madame Gao back in some form or another, probably with an even more crooked back, given that an entire building fell on it or something like that.
Absolutely.
Her arthritis is really playing up now.
It's a great moment. I really, really enjoyed it, and I did notice the call out for Sister Maggie. The minute I heard it, I knew it was connected to the comics, because I've known about Sister Maggie. But apparently the staging of the scene is exactly like the panel in Born Again by Frank Miller. It's under different circumstances, which I won't go into because it is a great book. Go out and find it and read it. Really good. Those are all of our top 5 points for the episode. Guys, any notes for the episode?
I have 2. And it's kind of, I'm not going to lie, one of them I kind of mentioned earlier.
Okay.
The nurse on duty attending Misty in the hospital scene is Linda Carter.
Oh, brilliant.
And no, I'm going to make the same joke again. No, that's not Wonder Woman. This is the original Night Nurse who, as I kind of said, was called out before Claire. She was the original Night Nurse from the comics, Linda Carter.
Yeah.
And then the two doctors on the slip that they had there beside the nurse in attendance was Tony Isabella and Alvar L. Jones, who are the creators of Misty Knight.
Nice.
So it was a nice call out to them there, especially
Very cool.
especially that she's getting her bionic arm. That was her origin scene. There you go. That's the two creators there.
Excellent. I mean, we finally get in this episode. How many Easter eggs did we get, Chris, in this episode? After
We got a lot.
yeah, good, huh?
Yeah, I
Very
was
cool.
happy. And then finally, John mentioned it earlier that the Iron Fist taking on the mantle, that was Daredevil, the Devil Inside and Out. That was that.
Right. Very cool. Another one to go and check out.
Yes.
Okay, so on to Defend. Chris, do you defend the final episode of The Defenders on Netflix?
This is the highest rating of any of the Defenders episodes so far. This is better than the opening for me. It's the culmination of so many story threads. They had us questioning. It's just, we could have done with another hour tacked on. This is a 2 hour special or an hour and a half special, yes. But it was beautiful. The multiple endings, where it leaves us at the end of phase 1 of the Marvel Netflix universe. This is beautiful. They've set it up the right way. They've teased some amazing pieces coming, what we can expect. Like they did it, instead of doing a post-credit scene, they did a pre-credit 15 minutes. It felt like 15 minutes, but it was a full 10 minutes. The fight was perfect. It was like it's the Avengers scene I wanted for the Defenders. We got that. I will always see Elodie Young and Charlie Cox now in that embrace where she is holding him from behind and they're about to die together. Like, that was beautiful. It was fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, I completely defend this, and I will argue with anyone who doesn't, because this was, for all of the slip-ups that this season has, or this, like, being slightly too short, the pacing sometimes being too fast, this makes it all worthwhile. This makes the culmination of 8 hours of content worth it, because it sets you up for the Defenders 2. It sets you up for phase 2. It sets you up with more questions. Oh, I want to know what happens next. Give me Daredevil Season 3. Give me Luke Cage Season 2. Give me Jessica Jones Season 2. Give me Iron Fist Season 2 as well now. I now care even more. I think they could go do so much with this character now. So, to end the Defenders, literally called the Defenders episode, I completely defend this, and I think this is necessary viewing for most people. If you've even watched one of these series, you need to watch this culmination, because it shows you what these shows can be. Derek, do you defend this final episode of The Defenders?
I absolutely defend this final episode. I defend the entire series. It's fantastic. It's absolutely what I wanted to see. And yeah, my only complaint is that it should have been longer. It's 8 episodes long. The secondary characters or supporting characters get completely lost in the show, and the only reason for that is because it's so tight. It's focused on our 4 main characters, and it needs to be, because that's what people paid the ticket to go and watch it for, I guess. That's what they got Netflix for, to watch this series of 8 episodes of those 4 characters together. But I love the supporting characters, so I would like to see more of them. But overall, I have no complaints. This was an excellent, really fun episode, and enjoyed talking about it again with you guys. John, do you defend the final episode of The Defenders on Netflix?
I do defend the final episode of The Defenders on Netflix. Yeah, I would give this 4 The Return of the King endings out of 5. This was a great wrap up here, and with so much intrigue as to what could come in either a well, in particular, the individual seasons of the Defenders coming up, whether it be their second season or their third season. There's some real intrigue left at the end of this. And I think that's really important for this, because all roads of those individual series previously have been coming towards this show, and it's really worked. I think it was great getting the big fight scene, the Defenders scene where all four of them are together, seeing the Iron Fist using his Iron Fist time and time again. I just thought was fantastic. I think Elektra has been just fantastic as well, and I love that final scene between her and Matt Murdock. I really enjoyed seeing the three ladies there as well. At the top of the hole, laying the explosives with Misty, Colleen, and Claire. It was great to see Colleen take off Bakuto's head. It was great for Claire to get her moment. It was good to see Misty finally have her arm chopped off so that she can have that origin moment. As you said, Chris, I think she is such a good supporting character. And I mean, Jessica, for me, has really shone in this episode and across all the other episodes as well. I think I've loved her wit, her spark, her slyness, her sassiness, all of that. Absolutely fantastic. It's pretty good that probably we've seen the last of the Hand for a while. I really, having said that though, I also hope that Elektra and Madame Gao survive that implosion of the building along with Matt, because I think there's two really good characters for me. I think Elektra just has sparkled in her more evil role, and Gao for me has been the Claire Temple of the other side. She really has connected through Wilson Fisk, through the Hand, through Iron Fist, Daredevil so well, and her actually having such a nice, meaty, chunky role in the Defenders has been cool as well. So yeah, a great finale to this series.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think we should get on to feedback. We got a fair bit of feedback for this finale episode, and most of it comes in from our Facebook group. Just come on over and join us over on facebook.com/groups/Defenders TV podcast. Chris, do you want to take the first one?
I will. Debbie Fisher wrote in and said, "Didn't realise Jessica Jones was so strong, holding up the elevator with the cables. Loved her being bait. Kept wondering when the heck Matt and Elektra would get out. And finally, the end with Matt in the hospital or wherever he was. Of course we knew he'd be fine, but goodness."
Jeff Charles says, loved the Defenders. So we know Matt survived somehow, and I assume that's where DD Season 3 starts. Did anyone else survive? Wouldn't be surprised if Madame Gao survived. So on your side there, John.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thanks, Jeff. John Tara Higley says, that shot at the end with Matt in the bed being lifted from the Frank Miller run was an excellent choice. Looks like we'll get to meet Matt's mom. Thank you so much, John, for getting my memory into gear, because yeah, it's such a iconic scene that Frank Miller puts within the Daredevil series and run that he did. Yeah, I'm hoping as well, not only with Frank Miller, but that a bit of Brubaker enters into season 3 of Daredevil.
Michael Booth went on to say, "Oh, Gao is totally still around. She got some of the bones, remember? No way we've seen the last of her." And yeah, outside of the quote, yeah, we all agree with you on that, Mike. Mm-hmm. He went on to say, "That end scene with Luke and Jess, though, sounds like they're keeping a future coffee date open." It really does.
Yeah. At a DIY store, I reckon. Yeah, I can kind of imagine that Gao was like sucking the marrow out of the bone that she's got to make sure that she survives the implosion.
She's just underneath the imploded building.
Yeah. And on that note, Tina Brown says, "Wish they had not actually announced Daredevil Season 3 before the finale. It took a little of the tension out of the final moments, but unbelievably good. I'll admit the music over the fight scene took me out of it for a minute the first time I watched, but on repeat viewing, it was a great call. And Michael Booth goes on and agrees and says, the sudden tone shift in music threw me as well.
The tune that they chose for that scene was Protect Your Neck by Wu-Tang Clan. I have to say, the first time I heard it, it just seemed completely out of place. They have kind of lent on the score for a lot of this season, and having such a standout rap song in the middle of a battle sequence seemed incongruous to the kind of music they played most of the season so far. But it is kind of the big moment where the four defenders are fighting side by side against the Hand in the final episode. So it should be a tone shift. It should feel different. So yeah, definitely the second time I saw it, it felt much better.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, it really worked, I think, the second time around. I think it just pulls them together. It's kind of it's that street music. Okay, it would have been nice for a big, expansive orchestral piece, but it felt as though we got that in the Royal Dragon, and I think this helps bring them back down to their street roots, definitely.
Claire Payne went on to say, overall the Defenders was very, very good series. Looking forward to future individual series and hoping another season of the Defenders. Mm-hmm. Claire, I can pretty much guarantee at this point we'll get some form of Defenders Season 2 announced. Potentially at New York Comic Con in October, or what we may get is... What, guys, do you think San Diego next year at a stretch?
I'd say San Diego next year, maybe New York Comic Con next year, yeah.
John Tara Higley came in then to say, for a hot minute I entertained the thought that they were going to do the Brubaker thing for Season 3, where Danny Rand wore the Daredevil outfit to protect Matt's identity when he was in prison, witness protection. But in this instance, because he's presumed dead. Wait, that could still work. Daredevil Season 3. Matt is alive but no one knows it. He's recovering in the convent somewhere. Danny Rand takes on the role of Daredevil to fight crime while playing hero in more rich guy with resources way in the boardroom. Matt Murdock recovers and we get a Daredevil versus Daredevil fight on the roof of some building in New York City. Iron Fist gives himself away by getting frustrated with the battle and harnessing his chi into the Iron Fist. Everyone is friends again, but Matt takes Danny to Melvin Potter to get a proper costume protection suit made, and we finally get the Iron Fist in his actual costume. Meanwhile, I'm assuming this is all B story to an A story involving Wilson Fisk out of prison and looking for revenge. Now we get to see how he builds an empire. Bullseye is heavily involved, maybe Black Cat to play off an Iron Fist and Daredevil as an anti-hero. Meanwhile, we get Foggy and Karen dealing with Matt's death. He returns to Foggy first. Have you told Karen pops up, brief spat. All the while, Matt is having a crisis of self with his knowledge that his mum is alive and a nun. Maybe he questions his faith in the process. No hand stuff other than Fisk using their departure as an opportunity to gain traction for his new empire. Oh, and he makes himself known to Karen because he needs her status as a reporter to take down Fisk like he did with Ulrich in Season 1. Is this practical or selfish? Argument ensues. We get triumph when everyone is on the same page for the greater good. Also, we need to explore Karen's past a bit in more. Maybe something from her past comes up. She deals with it on her own, like she did with the Punisher. Things don't go according to plan. We end things with Karen and Matt together, but Karen's past fours are a bit of a dark cloud, and at some point we see inklings of the bad road she will go down in the future.
Wow, John Tara Higley should be in the writer's room for Daredevil Season 3.
Absolutely. I love the idea of Iron Fist finally getting his suit, but through Melvin Potter and from Matt taking him there after he's been helping Matt out by pretending to be Daredevil. That'd be really cool. Bullseye, I really want to see involved heavily in a Daredevil Season 3. Definitely, given that we got a little Easter egg of him in Season 1 with the playing card in the sniper bag, where there is the presumably Bullseye dressed as a cop on top of one of the roofs. Yeah, so that would be very cool, for sure.
Can we have Colin Farrell back as Bullseye?
No.
As Bullseye. Yeah, thanks so much for that, John Tara Higley. That was really, really good. Tina Brown says, yeah, as much as I love Gao, the Hand need to be retired for a while or you risk ninja overload. And D'Onofrio is brilliant. Really, these shows have been the jewels they are because of the amazing villain casting. It's not just stunt casting, but getting fantastic actors who commit to the parts. David Tennant and Sigourney Weaver were just incredible. Plus, they get the best clothes.
Definitely. Rebecca Hart goes on, I like Danny's proto Iron Fist costume in that shot of him on the roof. very appreciated. Couldn't agree with you more, Rebecca. This hopefully is the start of things to come for the Iron Fist costume, definitely. And Coleman Stevens goes, Danny Daredevil for sure, but it makes me wonder how much of season 3 that will take up. I'm definitely feeling like 6-episode arc, but could even be shorter. Makes me wonder also about the inclusion of Born Again and how that'll work in its transferred form. Will we get Bullseye? Will we get Nuke? Will the Hand either bugger off or get better written? I don't know. I'd love to see Typhoid Mary or Echo as a new villain for Daredevil season 3. Also, really thought we were going to get another Misty cop-out with that whole arm business. Yeah, absolutely. Yes, I know we're going down a slight Daredevil season 3 path at the moment, but I think a lot of what we see at the end here of the Defenders really does hint at certain Daredevil story runs in the comics, which would be great to see. Yeah, Bullseye, I'm absolutely all for seeing, and I think the Hand do need to move back into the shadows for a bit, for sure.
Isn't it cool how many of these characters we've actually seen over the course of the seasons? We've seen Nuke over on Jessica Jones. We've postulated that we've seen Typhoid Mary over on Jessica Jones, but I think it's actually a different actress that's going to be playing her in Daredevil season 3 or in Jessica Jones season 2. I can't remember which one she's been cast in actually. But how many of these characters that make up quite a significant storyline in the life of Daredevil we've already seen in the shows. It's quite cool.
Yeah, and Connorman, you and me, dude, we're on the same page here about Misty and the cop-out. Look, literally, I'm pretty sure you wrote this as I was recording, so, dude, I swear I didn't take your feedback. I'm now just thinking, we're that in sync. We've got Unagi here, man. And to close off the feedback section, we got Jeff Childs went to say, that scene with everyone reuniting at the police station, then Karen and Foggy just standing there, ... Jeff, dude, like, this was the most emotional scene, as I told you in this episode, for me. So yeah, I'm completely... I've got the ... there too.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Jeff. That was a really standout moment, I think, from the precinct in this episode. So thank you so much for all the feedback. And of course, we have our competition, or should I say prize draw. It is the usual baseball cap, and we will pick out a winner from everyone who has featured on our feedback for this season of The Defenders. Yes, we have PricewaterhouseCoopers in the house. No, they're not.
We cannot claim that, John. I've said it to you before.
No, we can't
claim it. Chris, unfortunately, you're not going to be able to pick this.
Yes, unless it becomes like a Razorhead or something similarly like weird and wacky. You can come through the computer screen and pick
No, he can't.
a name out of the hat.
Unfortunately, he's not able to. So, John, I'm going to shake it, and then you can pick the name. John? Dig deep. There's been quite a lot of feedback this season.
Absolutely, there's been tons. Yes, so here we go. So a big congratulations to Lisa Richardson for her feedback. Your name has been picked from the hat. So you get a selection of comic runs, recent comic runs for all of the individual Defenders, including Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, and the Iron Fist, as well as the first 4 comics from the recent Defenders run as well. So a nice big selection of Defenders reading for you there. Big congratulations, Lisa. Well done.
Absolutely well done, Lisa. Hopefully you enjoy reading those while we're off air for a little while, up until we get back with Thor Ragnarok in October. Thanks to everybody that has sent us in feedback throughout this season. It's been really, really good to hear from you.
Yeah, absolutely. Along with Lisa and along with everyone else who's provided feedback, thank you so much. It really adds to the community of Defenders TV podcast, and I think the Defenders community as well. All your thoughts, comments, theories, postulations, and whatnot. It's absolutely fantastic. So thank you so much for all of those discussions on all of the different ways that you can provide them by. It's really cool. Thank you.
yeah, guys, I can't express how much the group that we've built over the last 120 episodes, that you fellow defenders being there, providing feedback for us for the show, talking out, listening to my crazy theories about a hand coming out of a hole. Don't know what that is? Go back in time and listen to our Daredevil 2 Season 2 coverage.
Technically, they did come out of the hole in the elevator, didn't they?
It did. Look, I'm just saying, I should be a writer there. It really means a lot to us that you come and you love the show as much as you do, but you also come and you share your own theories, your own feedback with us in this group. But I'm going to use this part for a plug because, hell, why not? Share your love of this show, the Defenders, the universe, and of course us, with your friends. If you think that some of your friends might be interested in any of these shows that we've covered, send them a link to iTunes. Mm-hmm. Even better, send them a link to the group. Even better, tell your granny. Why? Because I think grannies really like this show. I don't know why. I suddenly got it into my head at the beginning of this season that grannies like the Defenders. I don't know why. But hey, potentially they do. So it would mean a lot to all of us here at the Defenders TV podcast if you could tell your friends about us, be it on the group or even just writing a review and sharing the love via the podcasts. Be it on any good or evil podcast catcher or defenderstvpodcast.com/iTunes so that you can spread the word, spread the love for us. And don't forget, tell your granny.
Thanks so much for joining us throughout the season. It's been really good. This is actually the fastest we have ever podcasted. So we kind of pod binged on this. We did 4 episodes before the show was launched, 1 episode after that, and we've done 3 episodes in a week now. So pretty fast. Thanks so much for your support and thanks so much for your feedback throughout the series. It's been really good. Guys, thanks so much for recording with us. Been fun.
Absolutely, yeah.
You're very welcome.
That's €2,000, please.
The bills and invoices in the mail. Thank you so much, everyone.
Yes, so we will be back with our next episode, which will be looking at Thor Ragnarok in October. And that will be followed, hopefully closely, by The Punisher, which will be available through all Defenders or hand-supporting podcast platforms. So please stay subscribed. As Madame Gao said, this is the end, but only of this 8 podcast series of The Defenders. Or maybe she said, "Ah!" as an entire building fell on her. But as always, it is a pleasure speaking with you, and we'll speak with you again next time.
Thanks, fellow Defenders.
Thank you.
Thanks, fellow Defenders. Bye.
You think I'm holding back?
Before we knew about Matt, I was like, Matt survived. Police. Seriously, I'm not in Hell's Kitchen yet.
I was going to say, I think the apocalypse has come to Dublin.
Yeah. I did think that this part was going to be the death of Claire. That's what pushes the Daughters of the Dragon together. And also cement... Jesus.
What the actual... Where's Daredevil when you need him?
Probably going wherever they are. Thank you so much, everyone. We'll be back with Thor Ragnarok in October, followed by The Punisher, which will be available through all Defenders and hand-supporting podcast platforms in the next few weeks. That's not right. I just reading what was there.
Oh my god.
You're so good at reading, Chris.
Thank you. Sorry. Right, let's get this one line and then we're done.
That's it.
Just remember to tell them about iTunes, Chris.
It's been a long day for me.
Dude, I
It's
know.
longer here.
I know. That's why I'm trying to shut it up. Thank you so much, guys. Our next episode will be Thor Ragnarok in October, followed by, of course, The Punisher later this year. So, don't forget, join us for Thor Public. I'm just...
Punisher.
The Punisher. Right.
The Publisher. Join us for Microsoft Publisher.
The new
Why don't you just
podcast.
please close this? I can't speak anymore.
Just say goodbye, Chris. And
Goodbye,
John will close out with our next episode. So
Okay.
Oh, will I? Okay. Right.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Yeah, our next episode will be Thor Ragnarok in October, and that will be followed by The Punisher, which will be available through all, of course, the Defenders or Hand supporting podcast platforms in the next week. And
God, you did exactly the same thing as Chris.
but aren't we supposed to do that? You
No,
said-
because not in the next week was the problem
Oh, yeah.
that he
We'll
has.
just take.
I'm going to
What
delete
happened to
that.
me?
I know.
Sorry.
This is the extended outtake.